They say age is just a number, but that's not the whole story. Because what really matters isn't how many candles are on your cake, it's how you feel when you blow them out. And if you're still doing this after 70, you may be aging faster than you think, and no one around you is telling you. Why? Because some habits don't wrinkle your skin, they quietly shrink your life. Let's talk about it. See, reaching 70 isn't the end of the road. It's a new chapter. But whether that chapter reads like an adventure or a slow fade, well, that comes down to choices we make every single day, especially the ones we stop noticing. In this video, we'll walk through a few common habits that seem harmless, but could be draining your vitality, your independence, even your sense of purpose without you realizing it. Let's start with something that flies under the radar: ignoring your pace, not just in life, but in your actual physical steps. You may think slowing down is just part of getting older, but studies show that walking speed is one of the most accurate predictors of longevity after 70. Yes, something as basic as how quickly or how slowly you walk can tell us more about your body's aging process than your blood pressure or even your cholesterol numbers. Think about it. When you stop moving with purpose, your muscles stop working to their full potential. Your heart gets less of a workout. Your balance begins to slip. Your independence, it starts fading step by step. And the scariest part is, it happens gradually, quietly, until one day, climbing the stairs or walking across a parking lot feels harder than it should. But here's the good news. This is not irreversible. You don't need a gym. You don't need fancy equipment. You just need to keep moving with intention. Take that extra walk after lunch. Choose stairs over the elevator when you can. Your legs are more than just transportation. They are your lifeline to freedom. Now, let's talk about another silent thief of vitality: doing too much sitting. You might think you've earned the right to rest, and you have, but there's a difference between rest and stagnation. Sitting for long stretches of the day, especially without standing or stretching, speeds up muscle loss, increases inflammation, and slows down metabolism. When we were younger, sitting was recovery, but after 70, sitting becomes risk. It starts innocently, watching more TV, spending a little more time at the table, taking fewer walks around the block. But the longer you stay seated, the faster your body adapts to doing less. And soon, doing anything starts to feel like too much. There's a reason they say use it or lose it. That's not just true for your memory. It's true for your muscles, your joints, and even your motivation. The less you move, the harder it gets to move. And the harder it gets to move, the older you feel. So here's a small shift that can make a massive difference. Every hour you're awake, stand up at least once. Stretch your arms, roll your shoulders, walk across the room. Even 1 or 2 minutes of movement interrupts the aging cycle in your body. You're not being lazy. Your body just needs reminders that it's still alive and still in charge. Now, let's go a little deeper. Let's talk about isolation, but not the kind you can see. I'm talking about emotional and social isolation. That quiet drifting away from the world that often starts with a simple phrase, "I'm fine." You stop reaching out. You skip events. You tell yourself people are too busy, or that you don't want to be a burden. But what you don't see is how easily alone for now turns into alone always. And loneliness isn't just about sadness. It speeds up cognitive decline. It suppresses your immune system. It increases your risk of chronic disease. You don't need a dozen friends. You don't need to go out every night. But what you do need is connection. A phone call that lasts more than 5 minutes. A laugh shared over coffee. A sense that your presence matters to someone else's life. If it feels awkward to reach out, start small. Call someone and ask them how they're doing. Ask for a recipe. Share a memory. Let the conversation breathe. You don't have to fix anyone's life. Just showing up is enough. And when you do, you're not just improving your mood, you're literally extending your life. One more thing, and it's a tough one. If you're still doing everything for yourself, refusing help, insisting you don't need it, that might be speeding up your aging too. Now don't get me wrong, independence is a beautiful thing. But when we refuse help out of pride, fear, or the need to stay in control, we often end up isolating ourselves even further and burning ourselves out in the process. Letting someone help you doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're wise enough to know you don't have to carry everything alone. Whether it's asking for a hand with groceries, letting someone drive you to an appointment, or even accepting a neighbor's offer to mow the lawn, it's not a sign you're slipping. It's a sign you're smart enough to stay standing. Because aging well doesn't mean doing everything alone. It means knowing what really matters and holding on to that, not your ego. And if you made it this far, it tells me something important. You care. You care about staying sharp, staying strong, staying you. And that's a powerful place to start. Now that we've uncovered a few of these quiet habits, let's keep going. Because the truth is, the way we move through our days becomes the way we move through life. And every habit, every choice, every little, that's just how I've always done it, matters more than ever after 70. Now, let's talk about a subtle behavior that speeds up aging faster than gray hair ever could. Holding on to stress like it's part of who you are. You may not even notice it anymore. A tight jaw, a restless night, that constant feeling that something could go wrong. But when you carry tension day after day, when you let worry become a lifestyle instead of a moment, you're not just stressing your mind, you're exhausting your body. Chronic stress raises inflammation, which is like rust in your system. It chips away at your heart health, your digestion, your memory, even your immune system. And over time, it wears you down inside and out. Now here's what no one tells you. After 70, your body doesn't bounce back from stress like it used to. It holds onto it longer. It gets confused more easily. The tiniest emotional storm can throw your whole system out of rhythm. So ask yourself, are you carrying stress or is it carrying you? You don't need to become a monk or take up meditation if that's not your thing. But what you do need is a release valve, a way to let go. Maybe it's deep breathing for 60 seconds. Maybe it's taking a short walk without your phone. Maybe it's telling someone close to you, I'm feeling overwhelmed today. There is strength in saying it out loud, because when you name the weight, it starts to lift. When you hide it, it digs in deeper. Now, let's shift to something that may surprise you. One of the fastest ways to age your brain and your body is by stopping new learning. I'm not talking about going back to school. I'm talking about curiosity. When you stop being curious, when you stop challenging your mind, your brain begins to take the back seat. And like any engine that goes unused, it starts to break down. You might think, at my age, what's left to learn? But learning doesn't have to mean textbooks or tests. It could mean trying a new recipe, learning how to use a new feature on your phone, listening to a podcast, even asking your grandkids what they're passionate about, and really listening. Because every time you feed your brain something new, you're telling it, hey, we're not done yet. You're keeping the lights on. You're keeping the spark alive. And it's not just about brain health. New learning keeps you socially engaged. It gives you something to talk about, something to look forward to. It's a bridge between the you of yesterday and the you that still wants to grow. Don't let the world convince you that after 70, you're only here to reflect. You're still here to evolve. And curiosity, that's your superpower. Now, here's another habit that quietly accelerates aging: skipping meals or eating without intention. As your appetite changes with age, you might find yourself eating less or relying on convenience more. And while it's tempting to shrug that off, I'm just not as hungry these days, that slow drift away from good nutrition is often the beginning of faster decline. When you don't eat enough protein, your muscles shrink. When you don't get enough fiber, your digestion slows. When you skip colorful foods like fruits and vegetables, your immune system weakens. And before long, your energy fades, not because of your age, but because of what you're not giving your body anymore. Now is not the time to diet. Now is the time to nourish, to fuel, to honor your body by giving it what it actually needs to stay strong. Even small shifts matter. A boiled egg added to breakfast, a handful of berries in your oatmeal, a few more greens on your plate. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to be consistent, because the food you eat today becomes the strength you have tomorrow. And finally, let's talk about something almost no one mentions, but it's one of the most dangerous signs of accelerated aging: stubbornness that turns into isolation. It might look like always needing to be right, or refusing to try anything new, or brushing off new ideas with a "that's not for me." But the truth is, when you stop being open, when you dig in your heels and close your mind, you don't just push people away. You push yourself into a smaller and smaller world. And a smaller world leads to a smaller life. Now, I know change can feel exhausting. The world moves fast, technology moves faster, and sometimes it feels like everything familiar is fading. But when you resist it all, When you stay stuck in how things used to be, you start aging faster than your body ever intended. The most alive people I know in their 70s and beyond, they're the ones who stay open, who ask questions, who laugh at themselves when they don't understand something, and keep asking until they do. Not because they're trying to be young, but because they still see themselves as students of life. You don't have to agree with everything, but when you lead with curiosity instead of criticism, people lean in. They include you, and you stay part of the rhythm of life, not on the sidelines, but right in the heart of it. And that's the real secret. Staying young doesn't mean staying wrinkle-free. It means staying engaged. It means staying aware. It means choosing life, even when it's inconvenient. Because if you're still doing the things that quietly shut the world out, whether it's through your habits, your thoughts, or your resistance to change, you're speeding up the very thing you're trying to avoid. And maybe the hardest part of all is realizing that many of these habits don't feel like problems while they're happening. They feel familiar, comfortable, even earned. But that's how they sneak up on you. They don't knock loudly, they whisper. And the longer you let them stay, the more they start to rewrite the story of who you are. Now let's talk about something that touches nearly every older adult I know, yet hardly anyone talks about out loud. Neglecting your sleep, not in a dramatic, sleepless night kind of way, but in quiet ways. Going to bed at random hours, falling asleep with the TV on, waking up multiple times and brushing off, or telling yourself, I've always been a light sleeper, like it's just part of the deal. But here's the truth. After 70, your body needs sleep more than ever, not just to feel rested, but to heal, to repair, to process memories, regulate hormones, and restore your immune system. It's not just nice to get 7 hours, it's a lifeline. Poor sleep in older adults has been directly linked to faster cognitive decline, increased risk of heart problems, and even higher rates of falls. And yet so many of us accept poor sleep as normal. We don't push back. We don't ask why. We don't try to fix it. We just adjust. But you don't have to. You can take your sleep seriously, without medications, without drastic changes. Sometimes it's as simple as cutting off screen time an hour earlier, letting your room stay a few degrees cooler, or finding a calming ritual before bed, reading a real book, light stretching, quiet music, things that tell your body it's time to rest. And don't be afraid to bring it up to your doctor. Sleep issues aren't just part of aging. They're often signs that something deeper needs attention. When you fix your sleep, everything starts getting better. Your energy, your mood, even your memory. So don't ignore it. Don't dismiss it. Treat it like the foundation it truly is. Now, let's shift to something that might sting a little. Talking only about your health problem. Now, before you roll your eyes, hear me out. There's nothing wrong with sharing. You should be able to talk about what you're going through. But if your conversations always begin and end with your aches, your pills, or your last doctor's appointment, something's getting lost. Your story is becoming one-dimensional, and people, especially those younger than you, don't always know how to handle that. They love you, they care, but when every interaction feels like a trip to the waiting room, they start pulling back, not because they don't care, but because they don't know how to connect anymore. You are so much more than your medical history. You have memories, humor, wisdom, interests. You've lived through things that could fill a dozen lifetimes, so share that. When someone asks how you're doing, you can be honest, but don't let the conversation stay in that space. Tell a story, ask about their life, share something light. And yes, if you need to talk about something serious, do it. But remember to also talk about something joyful, something meaningful, something that reminds people why they love being around you. Because when you keep the door open to joy, not just pain, you create a space where people want to stay, not just visit. And speaking of space, let's talk about your body language and how it's quietly shaping how others see you and how you see yourself. After 70, posture often becomes an afterthought. Shoulders round, heads tilt forward, steps become smaller. You might think that's just age, but it's not always true. Sometimes it's just disuse. Sometimes it's habit. But here's what's powerful. The way you carry your body tells the world how alive you feel. When you sit upright, walk with intention, keep your head lifted, it sends a message to everyone, including yourself. A message that says, I'm still here. I still take pride in myself. I still expect to be treated with dignity. It doesn't mean you have to stand like a soldier, but even small adjustments, rolling your shoulders back, lifting your chest slightly, Taking a few minutes each day to stretch or strengthen your core can make a profound difference. You'll breathe better, think clearer, even your mood will lift. And best of all, people treat you differently when you move with presence. Because let's face it, there's a difference between being seen as old and being seen as respected. And posture, surprisingly, is part of that conversation. And now, let's tackle a habit that's often wrapped in humor, but carries real weight: making outdated or off-putting jokes. You probably heard, or maybe even said it. Come on, lighten up, it's just a joke. But here's the thing, the world has changed. Humor isn't always about what makes you laugh. It's also about how others receive it. Younger people today are growing up in a world where inclusion matters more than ever, where jokes at someone else's expense don't land the way they used to. So when a joke feels out of touch, even if it's not mean-spirited, it can quietly push people away. But you don't have to lose your humor to stay connected. In fact, laughter is one of the greatest anti-aging tools there is. But let it come from connection, from shared memories, from self-awareness, from joy, not from jabs. And here's the irony: the older you get, the funnier you can become, because your stories are richer, your timing is sharper, your reflections are golden. Just let your humor evolve with the times, and you'll never run out of reasons to laugh together. Because laughter builds bridges, judgment builds walls. And the final thought for today: underestimating your own influence. So many people after 70 start fading into the background, not because they have to, but because they think they should. They stop offering advice. They stop sharing stories. They wait to be asked instead of stepping forward. But here's what I want you to remember: you're still a leader. In your family, in your community, in this world, your voice still matters. Your presence still teaches. Your life still inspires. You don't need permission to be visible. You already earned it. So if you've been waiting for a sign to reclaim your presence, your energy, your spark, this is it. You don't need to be 30 again. You don't need to be busy or productive or young at heart. You just need to be fully you, awake to the life you still have, aware of the choices you're still making, and willing to change the ones that aren't serving you anymore. Because aging faster doesn't begin with a number, it begins with neglect. And it ends the moment you start paying attention again. Let's talk about one more quiet signal that you might be aging faster than you think, and that's letting go of purpose without realizing it. It happens gradually. You retire, the kids move away, the routines change, and before you know it, the things that used to fill your day, your time, your heart, aren't there anymore. You tell yourself it's normal. You tell yourself rest is good. And it is. But without something to wake up for, something to look forward to, life starts to feel a little blurry. Days blend together. Motivation thins out. You find yourself going through the motions instead of reaching for something. And here's what matters most: it doesn't have to be big. Purpose doesn't have to mean saving the world or starting a business. Sometimes it's growing tomatoes. Sometimes it's mentoring someone younger. Sometimes it's writing down your stories or teaching your granddaughter how to cook your famous stew. The point isn't what it is. It's that it pulls you forward. It keeps your spirit reaching. It reminds you you still have more to give. Purpose is what keeps the light on inside. Without it, the world gets dim. With it, even small steps feel meaningful. And here's the part many people miss: purpose creates health. It strengthens your immune system. It boosts your mood. It sharpens your memory. It slows down decline. It literally gives your body a reason to keep going. So if you've lost that feeling, if your days have started to feel like you're just passing time, it's not too late. Ask yourself, what would make me feel useful again? Who could I help or mentor or reach out to? What project could I start or skill could I share? Because when you light up someone else's world, you light up your own. Now, let's bring it all together. Maybe you've caught yourself in some of these habits. Maybe not. But the point isn't guilt, it's awareness. You are not behind. You are not broken. You're just at a new point on the road, and the next few steps are still yours to choose. Here's what I want you to take away from this. Aging faster is not about the lines on your face or the years behind you. It's about the life you stopped living before your time. But every day is another chance to turn that around. You can choose movement again. You can choose curiosity. You can choose to ask for help, to reconnect, to laugh more gently and sleep more deeply. You can choose to eat with intention and speak with warmth. You can choose to lift your head straighten your back, and remind the world that you're still here and still living. And maybe the most important choice of all, you can choose grace for yourself, for how far you've come, for how many times you've had to start over, for the ways you've had to adjust and adapt. No one gets it perfect, but every single person gets a chance to begin again. Today is that chance. So take a moment, sit with it, ask yourself, what's one thing I've been doing that might be pulling me down instead of lifting me up? And then gently, kindly let it go. Replace it with something better, something small, something joyful, something new. Because your next chapter, it deserves to be bold, it deserves to be free, and it deserves to be lived with the kind of presence that says, I may be 70 or 80 or 90, but I am not done yet. Thank you for being here today. If this message spoke to you, share it. Leave a comment below and tell us, what's one habit you're ready to change or one you've already conquered? Let's lift each other up. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We're building a community here, one that believes aging can be full of strength, grace, and meaning. You deserve a life that reflects who you truly are, not who the world thinks you're supposed to be at your age. So here's to your clarity, your courage, your continued growth. And here's to living your best life at any age.